So, G, what did you think of the recent Golden Globes?
I think it was great. One of the best, I think, well-deserved ones for a very long time for certain people.
Yeah,
Um, you know,
Christopher Nolan,
Nolan, I mean, yeah,
100%.
one of the best directors of all time,
Yeah,
finally getting his Golden Globe for directing, finally
yeah.
being
This
recognized.
is the first one, isn't it?
First ever Golden Globe.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
never won a Golden Globe whatsoever, which is incredible. And bizarre when you think about all the amazing films he's actually
Honestly,
made.
yeah,
Um, what I think this year it was great, but there was a lot of these. The whole thing about Barbie winning the box office award,
yeah,
it's sympathy,
yeah,
just
yeah,
pure
yeah,
sympathy
yeah.
vote. That's all it was. It's because you know they had to recognize Barbie was in some ways a cinematic achievement, which it
Yeah.
was. Definitely.
It was a good film.
It was a good
Yeah, it
film.
was a
I
good
wouldn't
film.
say it was award worthy though, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
I think there are a lot more films this year, especially like Saltburn, Poor Things,
Yeah,
especially
yeah, yeah,
Oppenheimer, that I think, as from a storytelling point of view,
yeah,
were, maybe a lot better. I think Barbie, in terms of a cultural point of view and for what message you're trying to get out there, I think it was important.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
I think, at these awards, awards can be subjective as well.
yeah.
But I think it shows that the Barbie Oppenheimer debate, it's been settled now.
It's been settled.
And I think
I
Oscars
mean,
is going to go the same
yeah,
way.
Oscar will go the
BAFTA is
same
the
way.
same
I would be
way.
surprised if Barbie gets nominated for the big categories like best film and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
Maybe like best. What it'll win best costume design, best hair and
yeah.
makeup.
I think
And
they'll be
obviously
nominated,
they'll
like
get nominated.
Margot
And
Robbie and Ken. Not Ken. What's the name?
Ryan
Ryan
Gosling,
Gosling.
I think they will get a nomination
Yeah,
for acting because their acting was great
yeah.
and they played the roles very well. But it was just the story which wasn't there for me.
I think with
And
the other caliber of films,
yeah,
I think it's Oppenheimer has been a clear winner this year
yeah,
for
yeah,
especially
yeah, yeah,
Golden
yeah,
Globes.
yeah. But
Now Oscars, we'll have to
yeah,
see.
at the same time, I am kind of glad they've kind of introduced a box office award
Yeah,
thing because all these like award, films like Avengers, all the Marvel films,
they have a chance.
DC films and like John Wick and stuff, they should be recognized for how good they are,
Yeah,
and they are the films that more majority of audiences see,
yeah,
rather
yeah,
than you know very niche art house type films.
yeah,
These are
yeah,
the films majority of people see, so
yeah.
it's kind of good
100%.
that they are actually getting nominated for stuff like Golden Globes, and potentially they may even have this section for the Oscars. Who knows? But I am glad in the ways that box office films are kind of being recognized because
Yeah,
it is an achievement for
it caters
films
to
to
the
make.
public, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it
Those
caters to the
box office
public,
films.
and even if they may not be good, it is an achievement for them to make as much money as they do in terms of the
100%.
box office. And all these films that get released in cinemas, box office achievements shouldn't be overlooked.
Yeah,
But at the same time, these awards are mainly for the story and how
yeah,
critically
yeah,
acclaimed they
yeah.
are. I'm really intrigued to see if I'm hoping Nolan does win Best Director
I hope
at the
so.
Oscars. I think
He deserves
he
it.
he absolutely deserves it.
It'll be like
Um,
how with Leo, how Leonardo
yeah,
DiCaprio, he had
yeah,
all
yeah,
these
yeah, yeah,
Oscars that he probably should have won for some of the films.
yeah,
And I feel like The Revenant was one that it was like a sympathy one. He probably deserved it, but I think he deserved it more for some of his other films.
yeah. I don't know. I think that year there just wasn't anyone as good as Leo that
Yeah.
year to win that award.
I
So I
mean,
think
rarely ever is, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
I think this year, if Oppenheimer wins, it's not going to be for a sympathy vote whatsoever.
No,
It's
no.
Nolan's time. He
Yeah,
deserves to win Best Director. He's
yeah,
going to get nominated alongside Martin Scorsese, one of the greatest, if not the greatest director of all
yeah,
time.
yeah.
So he's going to beat Scorsese. I know it's going to happen. So it's going to be a massive achievement for him to
Mm,
actually win the Oscar this year. I think he deserves it. I think, he's worked his ass off for all his films that he's done. And I'm
yeah,
glad that Oppenheimer. I am surprised that it's seeing all these Oscar nominations
yeah,
because I know obviously some people they didn't like it because it was too much talking and this and that,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
I think it was a great film,
I
and I
think so
think
as
it
well.
deserves. I think it deserves all the nominations that it is coming for because apparently you were saying earlier like 15 nominations it may get at the
Apparently,
Oscars.
yeah,
Yeah,
a new
the rumor.
record. Yeah.
That's insane.
I know. I
Yeah,
think Lord of the Rings: Return of the King is. I think it's
I think it
13.
may be, but it's 13. But if it also wins all of its nominations, then it will.
Imagine, yeah,
Lord of the Rings. It happened with Return of the
yeah,
King. It
yeah.
may
That's true.
happen, you know. But we're just gonna have to see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're just gonna see what's happening.
Well, I guess we're going to be talking about awards in a couple of weeks anyway.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
for today, what we breaking down?
So today we are breaking down what many consider one of the greatest and celebrated films of
Hmm.
all time.
Yeah.
Today we're breaking down The Godfather.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Should we get into it?
let's get into it.
All right, let's do this. So, same as before, we'll do a little synopsis and then we can kind of go into the themes and, interesting facts, all that kind of stuff. So we had a bit of a complaint from our producer last time.
Yeah.
I think I was yapping on too long for our synopsis, and I kind of got carried away a bit. So today, what I want you to do, I want you to time me, and let's see if we can get it done under a minute.
Under a minute.
I'm going to try.
That's
I'll
bold.
try under a minute, but time me, and then
Yeah.
let me know once I finish the synopsis how long it actually took. So at least that way, for future ones, I can try and keep it under that as well.
Okay, cool.
Alright, so you let me know.
you ready for this, yeah?
Yeah, let's
All
do
right,
it.
3, 2, 1.
Alright, so it's from IMDb. Okay, the synopsis is released in 1972, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, written by Mario Puzi and Francis Ford Coppola. Stars Marlon Brando, Al Pacino, and James Caan, and winner of 3 Oscars. Rated as 9.2 on IMDb, and Rotten Tomatoes rating of 97% for the tomato meter and 98% audience score. So it's basically set in 1945. It starts with the wedding reception of Connie and Carlo. So Don Vito Corleone, played by Marlon Brando, is basically hearing requests at his daughter's wedding, which is customary to do so at the time. He has a few people come in, which kind of sets up the storyline as we go through the film. And then these kind of show how respected he is throughout the film, as well as the kind of power that he has. As we kind of go further into the film, a character called Solozzo is introduced, where he's tagglia family, who asks for his political protection as he wants to get involved in the narcotics business. So, Vito refuses, and then as the story goes on, he tries to kill Vito, but unfortunately, fortunately for the Corleones, this is a botched attempt. Michael then tries to potentially, ward off this family as well and trying to get involved in the business, which his father never wanted. So what happens is he finds out that Solozzo and McCluskey, who are basically the police, are trying to work together to kill Vito. So Michael, in turn, kills them. This then leads out to an all-out war where Sonny ends up dying. Michael then finally comes back when Vito is healed, and at this point they find out that Don Barzini was behind everything. And as the kind of film progresses, we find that Michael is ascending more into the family, making more of the decisions. By the end, we have a full montage where he kills off a lot of the main characters from the other rival families. And then the final shot is basically where Michael's new capo regimes are paying their respects to him, and Clemenza kisses his hand and greets him as Don Corleone. That was definitely longer than a minute.
That was longer than a minute. The producer, oh wow,
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, first time for Shawshank, that was about 5 minutes.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I've cut it down by
You're getting
60%.
shorter and shorter each week.
Well, next week, let's see, maybe a minute and a half. Let's see.
Well, hopefully there's no other names sounding like pasta
Yeah.
names in there as well. Because I'll be honest with you, when I watched that film first time, I thought they kept saying Tagliatelle family as well, which it's an easy mistake to make.
Honestly, I think with the time limit and the time constraints, I think I panicked and I was trying to read through it quicker than I thought.
Yeah.
Because I actually cut out a few bits from the synopsis.
Yeah.
So if I hadn't, it probably would have been 3 minutes. So,
Yeah.
All right, next week we have to break it down a bit more.
Definitely,
but what did you think? What did you think of the film?
Oh, I think it's a classic. It's absolutely incredible. It's such a. I think it needs to be. It was 3 hours long. It needs to be that length because you see that journey of all these characters, and you see how it starts with Vito as the big boss, and it ends with Michael being that Don Corleone. Like he, it's seeing that like story. It's it's about Vito, seeing his power struggle.
It's like the rise and fall of both characters.
It's literally that. It's the fall of him, but then the rise of Michael.
Yeah.
And really, it's Michael's story.
The
film is Michael's story.
Yeah.
That's what people, because everyone sees Marlon Brando in the posters, like, oh, it's all about Marlon Brando. It's not. It's Al Pacino's film.
Yeah.
Al Pacino is the main guy.
I think Marlon Brando, the way he played the role was more of like an eye-catching thing, but from the poster point of view, because like he looks completely different with prosthetics. But then when you actually watch the film, you realize that Michael is the main character. They're following 100%. His ascension.
Yeah.
I would probably say Godfather Part II is more Vito Corleone's film. Actually, probably both, but you
Yes, yes,
focus
yes,
more
yes.
on Vito's
It's more
past.
about his like prequel and like
Exactly,
seeing
yeah.
how he became the
Yeah.
Don, which is a very interesting way of how they did that
Yeah.
film.
I think the score as well, like the music.
Oh,
Like I'd
yeah.
read, so when I was researching everything, I kind of looked into it all,
Mhm.
but I think the music was amazing for this
Yeah,
film,
it
and
is absolutely perfect.
everything that you kind of hear is done perfectly for for that
Yeah,
scenario
yeah,
and for the
yeah, yeah,
scene.
yeah,
And I think that, for me, I think I look at all aspects, not just kind of the visual side of things.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
the
yeah,
audio
yeah.
and everything makes a big difference for the kind of the normal
100%.
cinema goer
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
yeah, definitely, yeah. I was just like, it's very interesting seeing like how the film was shot, and it's incredible that this film came out in 1972. You
Yeah,
said
yeah, yeah.
1972. This film came out, and a lot of films from then haven't aged that well.
Yeah,
You know, a lot of the stuff they do is a bit ridiculous, a bit silly.
yeah, yeah.
This film is one of the few films that I think, in my opinion, stands a testament of time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, it's 2024 now, and that film is
52 years later.
still as good as
Yeah,
any
yeah.
film ever made. You know, I think it's one of the greatest
Yeah.
like short films, technical films, and also the content in it, the story
Yeah.
in it is
I think it's such a
brilliant.
layered storyline.
Yeah.
Like it's not just one thing that happens.
Yeah,
Like
it's
there's several things which are
so
coming
many things
together.
happening. Yeah.
Even
It's-
the kind of directing style as well, I found quite interesting.
Yeah.
So when I didn't know exactly what the term was, but I knew what they were doing. And when I
Yeah.
searched it up, it's called continuous acting style.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
when we were watching the film and we go through it, there's a lot of instances where kind of deaths are prolonged or like
Yeah.
certain silences are
Yeah,
prolonged.
yeah.
And that's because the director wanted everyone to kind of feel that tension and discomfort.
100%. Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think in a film like this, I think it really helps to kind of lend to those themes as well.
Yeah. I
So-
think with Coppola's style of directing, he wants everything you see on the screen, he wants you to feel on the screen as
Yeah,
well. You know,
yeah.
whether it be the shadows that are like in all the scenes where they're in the Don's office, you know, so many shadows, so many like elements of film noir, which is basically like shooting with lighting, but with like, you know, like blind, you know, shooting with lights through blinds, lots of dark shadows. They want you to be, you know, feeling that that discomfort of, you know, you're in the Don's office. It's very secluded. You have no escape.
Exactly.
When you're there, you're there.
It's very
and
claustrophobic.
and he's in control. You know.
In a way, I kind of felt like, even though it was, you know, like a normal, it wasn't black and white, but it kind of felt like a black and white film at some points, which kind of helped you just to kind of get rid of all the distractions and you just focus on what's there on the screen.
Yeah, 100%.
On some things, like if they've got like all these vivid colors and stuff, you sometimes don't focus on the actors.
Yeah.
I think here, using, like you said, shadows, dark rooms, you know, contrasting things like that, it really helps you just focus on the acting.
Yeah, but I also love the contrast. For example, the first scene, you know, when Vito's, you know, doing his business, but also on the day of his daughter's wedding. In fact, he's doing it there. But I love the shots where 1 minute it's there, and then it'll do a really hard cut, not like a soft transition, a really hard cut to absolute bright light and sunny backgrounds,
happy music,
loads of like Italian Americans, you know, dancing around, cheering, and you're like, whoa, what just happened there? You know, like it's kind of a punch in the face. But I love that contrast between the dark, desolate, you know, Don's office, but then the happiness of the community as well. And it shows how, for me, you know, like the differences of like that Italian culture of like, you know, some moments that it could have been really tense, but then most moments it shows that like in-depth look of like family and community, and you know,
it's all very connected.
Yeah, very connected. But then they use the whole bright colors and, you know, all the beautiful like color, like you know, sets and everything to show that, to display that like comfort of family. So it's, in a way, it's like, even though you do feel tense and stuff like that, you get reminded it is just one big family. You know? Exactly. It is just one big family.
I think it highlights how well Vito has kind of handled his business and his family, that he's able to do both of these things at the same time while still keeping both sides happy.
Well, I find that his business is his family, you know. It's like
true.
His business is family. It's all centered around family. His sons do his work for him, you know. And you know, but at the same time he can very much, even though his business family, separate personal things to
Yeah,
business.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
he's very good at that.
He's good at he's very fluid between the two.
Very fluid. It's just
Yeah.
incredible to seeing how, like, even on his daughter's wedding day,
Yeah.
people are. It's not like, I don't see him as a villain. You know, it's that thing of like, he's just this guy who has lots of powerful connections and he does a lot of things. Yes, he's part of the mafia, which, you know, I'll come up on that term later on, but he is just this like powerful community leader in a way. But people just come to him with their shit, and they say, "Oh, can you solve it for me?" And he's just like, well, "All right, I'll solve it for you." But it's the fact that he's giving so much to the community, but he's doing all this on his daughter's wedding day. It's you know, showing how he's so, like, you know, what's the word, like, he's so, like, hands on with everyone, invested in everything, but he can also multitask so well, you know. But it's just incredible how much he actually does, and how much people respect him as well. And obviously we see that in Godfather Part 2, how he becomes like really big as well. But it's just incredible, like, seeing how much people, like, you know, it's like, you respect this guy.
They revere him. And, like,
but then you see why, like, later on, why they respect him, because he puts the fear in God of, like, these people, you know.
He's built up that respect over all these years. He's helped so many people.
He has,
that he's got to the point now where, you know, it's not like he's asking for handouts or money. Sometimes, well, even in Godfather Part 2, he was just doing it out of the goodness of his heart.
It's the goodness of his heart,
Even if he's doing it in such a way that, you know, obviously it might not be morally right. The way that they've shot the film and done the storyline is that they want us to be on their side. You know, we want to root for these characters, even if they're not doing things that are morally right.
He's an anti-hero, you know. I don't find him as a villain in this film. I don't think he's evil or anything like that. And in fairness, it shows, like, the perspective in this film. You see it from, like, the negative, like, people and the, you know, bad guys' point of view, and it shows how corrupt, like, the system is, how corrupt cops are and stuff like that, you know. And it shows he didn't just, you know, decide, oh, I'm just gonna, you know, wing it. And this guy, like, he started from nothing and he became a powerful, you know, he built his own empire. It evolved into a gang, but it was still an empire, you know. And he doesn't work for stuff like drugs or anything like that. He doesn't like, you know, do any human trafficking or anything like that. It's more just, you know, he just wants respect. That's it. He wants respect. He wants people to respect him. And, you know, if you respect him, he will go above and beyond for you to do what he can for you, you know. He does that for so many of the characters. It's like, you know, he gives and gives and gives, but, you know, he will ask for something in return. But that something in return isn't necessarily the most big, and like he's not gonna say, oh, I want your car, or like, you know, you're gonna give me your kid.
It could just be respect or loyalty,
or even like later on. And I'm like going down the line here, and we're getting quite far into when like Sonny dies. He, you know, when he goes to, I forgot this guy's name, Barzini, who's a funeral director. Early in the film, when you first see him, he says, you know, that, you know, I'm going to ask you for a favor. You don't know what that is yet. You think it's not ominous. That favor is literally just, he wants him to just make Sonny look good for the funeral. That's it. That's the only thing he asks for, which isn't actually a lot to ask for. Which it does, you know, like, you kind of feel for Vito, that, like, all the stuff that he wants from people, it's not big things, you know. All the stuff that people want from him, it's like stuff like huge. You know, oh, I want you to blackmail this person, I want you to kill this person, I want you to do that, and he's like,
it's like an unfair transaction.
It's an unfair transaction, and you kind of sympathize with Vito, because you're kind of just like, man, this guy does so much for the community.
It's like, you know, when you have, like, say for example, a wealthy family member or whatever,
that's literally,
and then a lot of people go to them asking, can you give us this money, can you do that? It's kind of like that.
That is literally it, you know. And it shows that, like, you know, it's not just with, like, Indian families that happens to, you know, even Italian-American families, families, it happens with them as well, you know. And you kind of sympathize with them, be like, oh, wow, like, Italians are literally like us, you know.
Of course. Like, we're all the same, isn't it? I think, like, so you've mentioned quite a couple of important themes, so family and loyalty. A couple of other ones that kind of come up throughout the film are power and betrayal. And I think power ties in with that you see he's got to this point of power now where people respect him and he can get away with certain things. But then obviously betrayal is a huge theme kind of throughout this. His own people end up betraying, maybe not him specifically, but they betray Michael.
They betray Michael, who is his son, you know. He's his blood, you know. You're betraying, so if you betray his son, you're betraying blood, you know. yeah, the betrayal is definitely the key in that. And you know, even later on, like Michael kind of betrays his wife's trust as well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
because like
yeah.
he gets forgot the that guy, wasn't it Carlo, that's the other,
Carlo,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, he gets his you know, like him killed as well, even
yeah,
though he
yeah,
said he wasn't gonna kill him.
yeah, yeah.
He still gets him
I
killed.
know.
And then
Yeah,
even at the end she says, did you kill him? And he says no.
he
It's
just
like,
lies.
it's a
Yeah,
lie. Yeah, he
yeah,
basically just converts as truth. He just says, oh,
yeah.
I didn't kill him
He's just spinning
physically,
it a bit.
yeah, someone else killed him. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so you're kind of like, it's, you know, it's not just, you know, they're getting betrayed, they're also doing the betraying as well.
yeah,
You know, they're
yeah.
betraying trust. You know.
Yeah, I mean, so whilst I was kind of reading through and researching everything, so same as last time, there are quite a few interesting facts that I came across. So
Yeah.
these, you know, a few of these are from Mental Floss and Reader's Digest. So
Yeah.
obviously it's based on a novel,
Yeah.
say by Mario Puzi.
It is, but yeah,
Yeah,
Mario
so he
Puzo,
wrote
yeah.
it and it was kind of adapted for the film.
Yeah.
But in terms of like kind of casting rumors, same as we kind of discussed last time. So
yeah.
Paramount didn't actually want Brando for the role. They wanted Lawrence Oliver.
Yeah.
It's only after, you know, doing the screen test that they agreed to hire him. And in the film, he's basically got a custom mouthpiece which does that. But in the screen test, he just used like cotton balls.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And do you know why he did that in the screen test?
How come?
It's because he wanted to look like a bulldog. He wanted
Vito
to look like a bulldog.
Yeah,
so
that's
in
right.
order to do that, he put the cotton balls in. And
yeah.
it's that thing. It's such an iconic look as well.
Honestly,
it's like if you think of a generic mobster.
Yeah.
Any mobster, any gang member, you think of him. He is the original gangster.
It's like one of the first ones that ever came onto the big screen, isn't it?
Brando is, I know he gets a lot of hate and everything. I know people saying he's egotistic, lazy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the greatest actors who ever lived.
So,
you know, there's no denying how great of an actor
very
he was.
varied roles.
He may have been a pain to work with.
Yeah.
But he just had a specific way of working and you just need to respect that.
It comes across.
It comes across on screen. You know.
Yeah.
He may be egotistic, but there's a reason that he's egotistic because he's fucking good.
Yeah.
You know? He's a fucking great actor.
He's so good.
Yeah.
So obviously, speaking of casting rumors, so for Michael, one of the main ones that was kind of discussed was Robert Redford. So he came up last time as well.
Yeah, Robert Redford. This guy is sneaking into all these films.
Even in our next breakdown.
Yeah.
Because I've kind of looked through it. He comes up again.
Oh my god! So did Robert Redford just used to be like, I want to be in all these films?
His agent
he's like, give me a job, please. Give me a job.
You see, like Robert Redford, I've heard of him. The first time I heard of him was in the Captain America Civil War. Like I hadn't even heard of him before. But he's such a big...
Winter Soldier.
Yeah, sorry, Winter Soldier.
But do you know what the funny thing is? I think the first Robert Redford film I saw was the Winter Soldier.
Same.
Yeah, I didn't know who this guy was until I watched Winter Soldier. You know, so
but he's like such a big character. Such a big actor. Apparently,
he keeps popping up. Maybe I think at that time he was like a big star. But
we should just do like a counter, see how many times he's
we
considered
Robert Redford. This is the second time. Yeah.
And then so the horse's head. Did you know it was a real head?
It was a real head, yeah. And apparently, was it Peter or someone? They tried to shut down the film because it was a real head.
That's right.
And I think Coppola's justification was like, oh, that's just what we feed the dogs.
That's just what we feed the dogs. They got it from a local dog food company.
Which is insane. How do you get a horse's head from a dog food company? Honestly, like, what the hell? The 70s was built different.
Literally, you can't do that now. No. Yeah. So in addition to Robert Redford, so Dustin Hoffman, Jack Nicholson, and Robert De Niro all wanted to play Michael. Robert De Niro obviously comes back in part 2. Dustin Hoffman, Jack Nicholson, I don't think they would have done it justice.
I can see the Dustin Hoffman one because if you look at Dustin Hoffman's acting compared to Al Pacino's acting, they're very similar in their ways back then.
Okay.
Have you seen The Graduate?
No, I haven't.
Watch The Graduate. Actually. The way he speaks and his behavior, it's very much like Al Pacino, but I'm happy it was Al Pacino.
Yeah.
Al Pacino deserved to be...
I think he played the role, because it's kind of going back and forth from New York and Sicily.
Yeah.
I feel like that type of role was played really well by him.
Yeah, and I think Al Pacino can speak Italian fluently as well. And whereas I don't, maybe Dustin Hoffman can. I don't know much about his heritage, but Al Pacino his heritage is Italian, and he can speak Italian fluently. So I'm glad they gave it to someone who is of an Italian background. It needed to be Al Pacino, I think, and he plays
He
like
was so good.
his
So cold. He was
evolution
so good.
of acting in that film is incredible.
Yeah.
First, he's like this young, naive guy who just
Yeah.
wants to spend his days chasing
Yeah,
this
yeah,
one
yeah,
woman
yeah,
and
yeah,
you know falling in love. Then he by the end of the film, you're terrified
Yeah,
of him.
yeah,
You
yeah.
are terrified of him.
You know, like he gives that look where you're
Yeah.
just thinking, like, you know, you don't want to be in front of him when he's in that state.
Scarier than Vito
Yeah.
at the end of the film. You know,
Vito, I feel like, is more respected, whereas Michael is
he's
more
feared.
feared.
He
Yeah.
is feared.
Yeah.
Michael is that godfather of like he is a tyrant.
Yeah.
You know, he's a tyrant. He wants to be like that.
Yeah, and then you see obviously in part 2, like to what stage it gets at, because he starts off in this film, his ascension, and then he gets to the top, and then in part 2 you kind of see how he kind of maintains it. But we'll get into that as well.
100%.
So just the last 2 are basically in terms of Oscars. So obviously it won 3 Oscars. Brando won one of them, but he basically turned his Oscar down in support of Native Americans. So he didn't never go.
That's such an infamous clip. If you've ever seen it online,
Because of that, the rules actually changed. So he had someone else, I think, accept it for him.
Yeah.
But after that, the Oscars changed the rules so that only the winner could collect the award. So now, unless if it's like a posthumous award, otherwise the winner has to go.
Yeah, because even like in COVID as well, when Anthony Hopkins, because he couldn't make it there because he was in Wales and he was in lockdown, they sent the Oscar to him.
I remember that.
And then when he did a speech, he was like on the Welsh hills.
The father.
The father. Yeah. You know, that's like incredible. Like that speech. If you ever get a chance, watch that speech because
my God, Marlon Brando.
It's
okay, fine. I'll have a look.
It's before Will Smith's slap. This was the Will Smith slap.
No way.
Basically, because it's basically just the Native American like woman. She was like shitting on like the Oscars and stuff. But I mean, but now the slap has like overtaken that because that was even worse than that.
Yeah.
But
maybe we should do something like that. The most controversial like awards moment.
It's the slap. I don't think anything else can top that.
End of. Yeah.
It's the slap. The slap is the most controversial moment.
That was insane, man.
I love it.
Anyway, we're getting off topic.
I've got some bit of fun facts about the films as well.
Yeah.
So you know the cat that's in the opening monologue, the one where Vito's playing with, right?
Yeah.
Also one of my favorite shots because of that contrast of this very scary looking guy. He's playing this like stupid little cat.
Yeah.
That cat. It wasn't supposed to be in the film. It was they found it in the parking lot.
It was a stray cat.
It was a stray cat that couple have found. And then he was like, "Oh, look at this cat!" And Marlon Brando loves the cat. He literally like, "I want to keep it in the scene." And
imagine like a scene where this cat, like, because you always see now people kind of do parodies of The Godfather where they turn around and they've got
they've got the cat. Because of that cat. The cat makes that scene, you know, because he's just like casually talking and the cat's just like playing in his hands.
Honestly,
apparently, that cat like fell in love with Marlon Brando. It didn't want to like leave Marlon Brando's side, which is like insane. Also, you know the scene where Vito's being lifted up in the room. So like when he returns home and they're taking up the stairs. Yeah. Marlon Brando put weights under his bed because as a prank. He did as a prank so that it can be hevier.
Oh my God. What a legend.
He actually just did that casually. And also you know that bit where he's playing with Jack as well.
Yeah.
When he puts like the lemon in his mouth and everything like that.
Yeah.
Entire thing was improvised.
Really?
That scene wasn't supposed to happen in the film. And in fact, you weren't supposed to
This is when he dies, right?
When he dies. His death was not supposed to be put in the film. Paramount didn't want his death whatsoever in the film because they literally were like, oh, but the next shot should be he's in a funeral, and then you see that he's died.
Okay.
Coppola didn't want it, but Coppola had no budget whatsoever to continue shooting. He literally used up all his film and everything like that. So basically, they just went. I think they hired like a private house.
Yeah.
They shot it quickly in the garden. And because he didn't write anything for that scene as well,
it did seem very like kind of just free flow.
Yeah, it literally that entire scene was just free flow. They just said to Marlon Brando, "We're gonna put the kid actor there. Act how you want, but then you're gonna die, and just let the kid." They literally said, "Let the kid do what he wants." So you know the bit where he cuts out the lemon and puts it on and scares the kid. That kid's scared scream was genuine. He genuinely was terrified when he cut him out. I cut the lemon out and put it in his mouth. He was genuinely scared.
Oh my! I love hearing stories like that where they've just done these little pranks because you never know what it's like on a film set. And you hear these kind of stories and you kind of.
Also, there's that one scene. You know when Luca is about to meet Vito for the first time.
Yes.
Yeah. First, so remember he's like revising his notes and everything like that.
Yeah.
So you know when he's like shaking and he's like stumbling his lines.
Yeah.
That bit was real.
Yeah.
Because he was so scared to act with Marlon Brando. That was his first
Really
ever
nervous,
scene with
isn't it?
Marlon Brando. He was so nervous that he was genuinely stumbling and he was like, you know, like because it's his first scene with Marlon Brando.
Yeah. Like, it's a massive actor.
It's a massive actor. That's like, imagine, you know, I said to you, okay, tomorrow you're going to do a scene with Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
You would be stumbling as well, mumbling, because, you know.
And for such a big film, which is, you know, now become so iconic as well.
Yeah. It's, you know, such an iconic film. And, you know, at the time, Coppola wasn't that big of a director, but you just knew, I think everyone knew at that time, if Coppola gets his way and, you know, is overpowering Paramount and letting him do his film, this is going to be a great film. And it was, you know.
I think they gave him, like, enough kind of free will to do what he wanted.
Well, they didn't. He just basically just kept saying, "Oh, I'm just going to do it."
He did it himself.
They threatened to fire him so many times.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Paramount weren't happy with the decisions because they were like, "This is stupid. This is stupid." And in fact, like you know, a lot of the action scenes.
Yeah.
The action scenes are there because of Paramount. Coppola didn't want any action scenes. That scene, you know, the scene which you know, I think is probably the one scene I hate in the film because it's so dumb. It's that scene where Connie's like smashing all the crockery and like she's screaming because her acting is terrible. I'm sorry, but I don't know the actress's name. I don't know her actress's name, but she's Adrian in Rocky. She plays Adrian.
Okay.
And yeah, that's her. But her acting in that film is so shit. And when she smashes the crockery, I was like, this is a really stupid scene. Like random scene. That scene was literally Paramount said you have to put that scene in there, otherwise you're gonna get sacked. Yeah. And so Coppola was just
studios like do stuff like that.
So Coppola was just like, fuck it, whatever. You know.
I guess one scene to like
let him
do the rest of the stuff.
Because majority of the stuff he got to control, but that one scene, they were so desperate to keep it in that film. But I was just like, I watched it, I was like, that's such a shit scene. And I'm like, okay, I'm glad it's not just me that you know. Even Coppola didn't want that scene in there. So you know.
Well, before we start breaking down the actual, you know, going through the film, so I've got a little game for us. Okay, so it's called On the Count of Three. So I'm going to give you three kind of. Well, we'll both do it at the same time.
Yeah.
So it'll be three categories.
Okay.
And it'll just be kind of off the cuff. So favorite character, least favorite character, and favorite quote. Okay. So I'll say 1, 2, 3, and we just say it at the same time.
Oh, okay, Lord. Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So favorite character.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Michael.
K.
Who?
K.
K.
His wife.
The wife. Are you serious?
Nah. Michael. Obviously, Michael. K was in there for like what?
She was like
probably
in there for
5
like
minutes.
Yeah, like 5 minutes. I was like, who's K? I literally was like, who's that?
Nah, you know, it was a close one, either between Michael and Vito. But I think because it's Michael's film, and because of his character arc,
I think,
and the way he is portrayed, I would say
Al Pacino just knocked it out of the park. Because with me, Marlon Brando, we know he's a great actor. We know he's amazing. He did so many films before this, which were incredible as well. It's just, this was one of the first films Al Pacino was in. You know? He was not that well known as an actor. Very early career. This film made Al Pacino's career, and you can see why he's incredible in that film. You know, Al Pacino. I think Michael was the best character in the film.
All right, least favorite character. Okay.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Fredo.
Connie. Really, Fredo?
Drawback.
Oh, is that why?
His hairline, man. But also, he's such a little bitch, honestly. Like,
I think he kind of gets put in his place at the end when Michael's like, "Don't ever go against."
Yeah, I love that bit at the end. Like when he shuts him down, he's like, "Don't ever go against family." But it's the fact, like, he's always been this like nervous, bumbling like brother that you know, and he got his dad shot as well, and he's been like this. As soon as he gets to Vegas, he's all of a sudden tries to be with this confident guy, and it's like, dude, don't forget your place in the family.
I think he is probably one of the kind of lesser liked characters. For me, I would say Connie, because I think it wasn't even that her acting was bad for me. I just feel like she was very whiny in the film.
She's very whiny and also very hypocritical as well. Because she keeps calling for her brothers to, to protect her and kick Carlo's ass.
Yeah.
But then when they do something, they're like, "Oh no, he didn't mean it. He didn't mean it." But at the same time, that's kind of what it was like back then, though. When it came to like women and like how husbands would treat their women. Because they would they would say something and then the brother would come and kick their ass. But they wouldn't learn. They wouldn't learn.
Of course.
I think one of the best scenes in that film is when Sonny beats the shit out of Carlo.
He chucks the
and I love the way it's shot with the wide shot as well, and like all the kids are like watching. But it's the punches, gets the dustbin, bam, 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 and then the kick at the end. It kicks his face. and it's like, oh my god. And then the fire hydrant's like on him as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a very satisfying scene.
Yeah. There's a scene in Simpsons which copies that exact shot. If you ever get a chance, check it out. It's Marge beating up her like mugger, and then she becomes like ripped, and then she sees him, and she does the same punches as him, hits thing, and like even kids are watching and everything like that. It's literally the exact same shots.
Jokes.
Simpsons has imitated Godfather a lot.
They've imitated so much.
Yeah, but Godfather in particularly, they've copied a lot of Godfather scenes.
I'll have a look.
Yeah.
All right, last one's favorite quote. So with this, we'll do it one at a time. Because, it could be a long quote. So I'll let you go first, all right? So what's your favorite quote?
I'll give you an offer that you can't refuse.
Yeah, it's the obvious one, isn't it?
It's the obvious, the most iconic quote in film history.
You know what? It's iconic quote, but the one which I really liked, mainly because it was an improv, was leave the gun.
I was scrolling down and trying to find it, but also that scene where at the end where he says, "Don't ever ask me about my business again, Kay."
Was that improvised?
No, it's not improvised.
Okay. Favorite quote. Sorry.
Favorite quote. Yeah, favorite quote. Yeah. Because it reminds you, using Modern Family, right?
Yeah.
There's a scene where Phil basically they shoot that scene as well, exactly like the thing. And Phil at the end, he says
I remember this.
He's like, "Don't ever ask me about business, Clay." It just reminds me of Phil Dunphy because I was watching it and then I was just like, oh yeah, I remember this ending, and I remember which show copies this. But yeah, no, I love that scene where
leave the gun
at the end when
cannoli.
like that quote is like
so funny.
Every time I see that scene, it makes me laugh so much. Leave the gun, get the cannoli.
It's so because I think he was supposed to say something about the cannoli in the scene before with his wife.
He was,
and he forgot. Then he remembered on this, and then he said it.
Yeah, that was Clemenza. That's
Clemenza,
right. Yeah. He's a really good character.
I liked him. Yeah. It's a shame that he couldn't come back for part 2, but we'll discuss that.
Yeah.
So, like with Shawshank, when we were doing the breakdown, I kind of looked at the first thing that you notice, whether it's the sound or whether it's first thing that you hear or first thing you see. So, in here, the opening soundtrack, they use Nino Rota.
Yeah.
So he basically, the song is called "The Immigrant," and it's quite symbolic of Vito because he arrived as an immigrant, and you don't see it in part 2, but he was chosen by Coppola because the style of his work basically merges shades of Sicily and America.
Yeah.
And so he basically got an Oscar for the film soundtrack, but it was later revoked because he basically had the song as a different version of a previous song of his, which he had done 20 years ago. So therefore, it was not considered original.
Wow.
But then in part 2, they use a similar soundtrack, and he gets the Oscar for it.
He got the Oscar for
that. It's really weird. Like he kind of, I guess he got the Oscar in the end, but it's just like weird how they done it.
I have a theory that everyone in Hollywood genuinely hates Francis Ford Coppola.
Yeah, I think so.
I feel like the guy can't do any production he does. There's always issues. There's always shit going on with him.
Yeah.
He can't make an easy film.
Even his new film that's supposed to be coming out, it's been
Megaropolis.
Yeah. It's been going on for like 40 years that he's had the idea.
But there's rumors that it's apparently finished. There's rumors.
Yeah.
Adam Driver is starring in it.
Yeah.
And there are big rumors that it's gonna screen at Cannes this year, and that the favorite to win the Oscar, the favorite to be nominated for Oscar next year is gonna be that film.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Which
that'll be good. That'll be good to watch.
That'll be crazy. I mean, it'll be a shame though next year if Francis Ford, if he's finally gonna win like his Oscar for Best Director, and then he gets snubbed it by everything else because the guy's in his 80s now. It's like after that, this has to be his last film now. You know.
Yeah. I think this has been one of his like.
It's his baby.
It's been 40 years.
It's his
like,
project.
It's his dream project.
It's a dream project, but you know he is. Oh man, I feel bad for that guy. Like he
can't catch a break.
Yeah. You know he's Nicolas Cage's uncle.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Him and Nicolas Cage. His Francis Ford's older brother is Nicolas Cage's dad.
Damn.
Yeah, which is insane, right?
That's crazy.
Yeah, which is funny, but Nick Cage hasn't actually been in any of his films, which is quite mad.
Fair.
Yeah.
So obviously the opening scene. So I actually kind of looked back to see how long this first act was.
Yeah.
So the first act is basically the wedding and when they're in his room.
Yes.
It was 27 minutes long.
Yeah.
Really long. And like I think it's a good way to start the film because as we said, it kind of shows his family side of things, but also his business side. And then you start to learn more about his sons, so Sonny and Michael. And you can tell straight away that they're completely different. You
Yeah,
see,
yeah,
Michael
yeah.
is very similar to Vito. I found
Yes.
he's quite calm. He'll
Yeah.
have moments of outbursts.
Yeah, yeah.
But most of the time, he's very strategic. He's very calm. Whereas Sonny is more of a kind of, he thinks more with his heart. He's very passionate.
He takes things too personally,
Yeah,
and he's
yeah.
he's such a loudmouth. But
Yeah.
he's not morally right as well.
No,
He's
no.
cheating on his wife. He's so like
That's the thing.
Yeah, he's a bit of a scumbag basically.
Well, that's the thing. So like Vito says in this whole kind of 27-minute, you see Sonny go, he cheats on his wife, and he comes back, and Vito basically says this quote. Sonny comes in, he looks at him, and he turns around, and he's like, where is it? A man who never spends time with family can never be a real man.
Yeah.
And he looks in Sonny's direction.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I don't think Sonny picks up on it because Vito is saying it to someone else.
He's saying to someone else,
but
like
you can tell Vito doesn't view him as the next heir to the family
definitely not.
empire.
Because Sonny is very hot-headed, and
Yeah.
he's a bit of an idiot as well. Like
Yeah.
if you think about it, and Vito knows this. He knows
Yeah.
like this guy is not going to overtake me, and you see it as well when Vito gets shot. So many mistakes happen because of Sonny. Sonny fucks up so much in the family business. Like, he messes it up completely.
It's because of him and Fredo that a lot of this stuff has happened.
Yeah, and you can see Tommy's trying to, like, correct him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, like, Tommy can't overtake him because he's not technically blood. He is adopted by Vito, but he's not blood.
Yeah.
And Tommy's, like, saying, no, you got to do it like this. But, they will listen to Sonny. And Tommy's literally just, like, him and Tommy clash so much in that film because, Sonny is basically just jealous of Tommy. Because Tommy is...
He feels more like a part of the family.
He's more a part of the family.
Or the empire.
He's smarter as well, and he makes better business decisions for the family than Sonny.
Yeah.
Like the whole scene with the director, he handled that beautifully.
Yeah.
With the director's getting angry at him and saying, "You don't come in here," this and that. But he's standing, whilst Tommy's like so calm and professional.
He was so calm, yeah.
Professional. Whereas this director Jack, he's just so like, like
he was fun. I like it.
He was good. He was good. He was so like loudmouth and everything, but he was just so like. He's trying to be powerful, but yet he's standing whilst this guy's sitting, and you can
see there's a power struggle.
There's a power struggle,
even though he's doing all the things that you would expect someone who is asserting dominance to have. It's completely opposite.
It's completely opposite. Yeah.
No, I completely agree. I think Tommy is a lot more respected.
Yeah.
I think even by Michael compared to Sonny, because Sonny, you kind of. All of his actions then leads to his demise. Like it's his fault.
It's his own fault.
It's so stupid of him to go and drive by himself with no one in the car. Everyone was like, a few minutes behind. He was obviously going to get caught out.
Although, it was insane how far his backup was though. I was like, are you serious? You couldn't catch up. But it shows he was driving so fast as well.
Yeah. So the scene when Johnny Fontaine he comes in.
Yeah.
When Vito slaps him and he was like, that's improvised. You know that the slap was improvised,
which I love. Yeah. Johnny Fontaine.
Yeah.
The character. Frank Sinatra tried to sue the movie because there's parallels between Johnny Fontaine and Frank Sinatra. So Frank Sinatra was also a singer that somehow was able to get main roles into movies. Now, there was massive rumors back in the day that Frank Sinatra was involved in the mafia. It was a conspiracy theory. It was like that. So nothing was ever confirmed.
Yeah.
But basically, the way they did this film, it kind of looks like they're trying to confirm that rumor and say that, Sinatra only got his way because of the mafia. Just how Johnny only gets his way because of the mafia. Because Johnny is considered family as well, you know. He's considered family, he's known Vito since he was a kid, He grew up with the brothers as well, so he's considered family.
Yeah.
And Sinatra literally, messaged them and said, what are you trying to say? And he literally apparently said to them, do we have an issue? Basically, yeah. So
Sinatra said that.
Yeah, Sinatra said that to Coppola, to the producers, and it was basically like, oh shit, maybe this does confirm the rumor.
That's
so they kind of in a way outed him by indirectly outing him. Apparently, it was Coppola claims it was purely coincidental.
Yeah.
It wasn't supposed to be like that, but I don't think so. I think he intentionally did that.
You think so?
I think so.
There's always hidden similar, kind of things like that.
It's so that Johnny Fontaine is so similar to Sinatra.
Yeah.
It must have been.
Yeah.
Coppola must have known something.
Probably, yeah. I mean, there's so much stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and all these people know, 100%, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, as the film obviously goes on, you start to kind of understand more where the story's going. So one of the main characters or I guess the antagonist, Solozzo, and then the Tartaglia, said it right this time. Tartaglia, the Tartaglia family, you find that they're the kind of main people who are going to be going against the Corleone family.
Yeah.
So obviously they are trying to propose this thing, but Vito is completely against it.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
he
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
want to, just be all hands off. So
Yeah.
he sends one of his main people, Luca Brasi,
Luca,
to go and look after,
yeah.
to go and see what's going on.
Yeah.
And I thought what was quite interesting, especially in the way that it was shot, is that when you see Luca going to meet Solozzo and one of the Tartaglia sons,
Yeah.
I read that the way that it was done is that there's a lot of shadows and darkness used in the film.
Yeah.
But in this, what happens is that they made Luca wear completely dark, and everything around was all bright.
Yeah.
So the reason why they did that is to make him seem like he's standing out a lot, and he's like a fish out of water kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they do that again later on with the hospital scene. The hospital walls and everything are really bright, but Michael's wearing a lot of dark clothes.
Yes.
So he's in an environment where he shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to get involved in the family business.
But
then you see that switch when he's then outside with someone else trying to protect the doors.
Yeah.
That's where he makes the switch, and he's gone from not wanting to be in the family to now being involved. And then that's where, because after that is basically where he then goes to kill Solozzo and McCluskey. And I thought that was quite interesting, the way they use kind of colours and shadows to try and do that.
It's very much, it plays into the elements of the classic film noir, using lighting and shadows to tell the story, using visuals to tell the story. They really, wanted to make it a homage to the classic, the classic, 1920s black and white film noirs that you would see about. Because all film noirs were about detective stories, about mafia, gangs, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was a throwback to that time, that's what it was.
I think not even the visual side, but even the music and the audio.
Yeah.
I think it's probably in this film, one of the best that's ever been done. Because not only the score, but certain bits like in the hospital, when Michael is in the hospital guarding the door, you just hear footsteps. You don't see anyone. And that footsteps goes on for ages, and it basically gets louder and louder to the point where you finally find out who it was. And then that person, whoever, I can't remember, I think it was the baker and Michael, they're then waiting outside the hospital trying to protect the doors. And the people who are supposed to be guarding it were Tessio's men. So you kind of get a foreshadowing of Tessio betraying the family.
100%.
Later on, because you find out he's the betrayer.
Yeah, you find out that
so you kind of get foreshadowing here as well. And then I think after, so then obviously Michael gets punched. They then have to try and get some form of revenge. So then you have the iconic scene where it's the whole restaurant scene. Goes into the bathroom, gun kind of taped behind. I've always seen that being used in loads of different TV shows. Never knowing before it was from here. I knew after after a certain point. But then you see how well it's done in this film. That it's like a cinematic masterpiece with the acting, music, and everything.
Exactly. Like that scene, you've seen so many like Hollywood films and shows that copy and are inspired by scenes like that. Because Coppola just got it right the first time, and it's that thing. It's a good template for like a gangster film. This film, it's absolutely perfect. In that sense.
Yeah, definitely. Because even in that scene when they're in the restaurant, so how I was saying there's a lot of silence and stuff that they use. So from the moment that he goes to the toilet to get the gun to when he returns, almost a minute goes by with no speaking. And like, for films, a minute is a long amount of storytelling time. So for that to have no speaking, it's just all it is basically noise that you hear. But it's like chatter that you kind of hear.
But it's that thing that goes back that Coppola, he wanted to take his time with this film. He wanted to drag it out.
It's like the director's cut, isn't it?
Exactly, it's the director's cut. He wanted to make it as long as he could. Because we need this like story.
It's
we
that
need
continuous
this.
action
We need to see that
style.
Continuous action style where every single little thing in the film has to be detailed to as much as possible. He really wanted it to be as detailed as possible, as specific as possible, which I absolutely love when it comes to films. Everything, everything in the film has a reason. There's a reason for every single thing in the film. It's like, for example, Michael, he gets frisked. If he had a gun in his pocket, where would he got that gun from? We need to see where he got that gun from. We need to see that it was hidden. It's about taking his time, and they do that very, very carefully in that film.
I think like you said, with taking their time and they kind of prolonging certain aspects. So in this scene, when he kills Solozzo and McCluskey, it's dragged out. When Luca Brasi is killed, because he's a wrestler, he has all that kind of background knowledge on how to make his face seem really strange.
Oh yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
why
yeah,
he
yeah,
used
yeah,
that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
that was a prolonged.
It was a very
It's
prolonged.
it's
Yeah.
it's done to make you feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you wouldn't see that in films nowadays
No,
where like you
definitely
see
not. Yeah,
eyes
you want to
popping
see
out.
that much emotion and that much pain in someone's
Yeah,
eyes.
yeah,
But
yeah.
you know, Coppola was like, no, we need to see like, you know, this isn't a quick kill. You need to see how much he's in pain
Yeah,
and he's
exactly.
slowly being murdered. You
Yeah,
know? Yeah,
exactly. So then obviously after this point, like Michael has to go back to Sicily, and this is the point where now all 5 families are going to start going into a war.
Yeah.
So, you know, whilst that montage is happening where you see Sonny and all his kind of henchmen, the capo regimes, go to the mattresses,
Yeah.
there's a moment where someone's playing the piano.
Yes.
So that is actually Carmine Coppola, which is Francis Ford's father.
Oh,
so
wow.
he did that. He basically did the music for that scene, but he also plays it in the film. So he's got an actual credit as composing it as well as being the person playing.
That's amazing. Yeah, did not know that. Yeah, because I know Coppola's dad was a composer, a very successful composer actually. Yeah. And he always like says in like interviews, "I wanted to be like my dad. I wanted to be as thing," which is insane because Coppola still to this day doesn't think he's as good as his dad.
Really?
Like, yeah, he's
okay. In composing, you mean, or just
in general? Like, as in he thinks he's not as successful as his dad, which I find bizarre.
Yeah,
because he's made some of the best films of all time, and
I mean, just this and Part Two.
And
like,
so many
classics.
people have looked up to Coppola, but it's incredible in his 80s how humble Coppola actually still is.
What other films has he actually done?
Apocalypse Now.
You filmed that?
He did Apocalypse Now, and Apocalypse Now, I'm sure it's on the list.
It is. Yeah, it is. I think it's like in the top 20, I think.
That if we can make that film into a 3-hour thing, because some of the behind the scenes stuff that happens there is insane.
I've heard.
With the stuff on Sicily, by the way, I found Sicily, comparing that to like 1940s New York, such an incredible balance, because this film comes off of World War II, right? The setting, it comes off World War II, and at the time of history, you know, Sicily was just, and Italy in general was recovering from fascism. You know, Mussolini had just been executed, and they were recovering from the reign of fascism, and you know, trying to become a better country. But it was, you know, decimated as well, just as much as Germany and Japan were. It was decimated by the Allies. But what I found really interesting in this film is, even though, you know, the film's set in New York, and that's when, you know, America won the war, and it's supposed to be this great, prosperous country and stuff like that. But it looks like a war zone, and it's absolutely bleak. Whereas Sicily looks like an absolute paradise. I thought that contrast was very interesting, how they did that. Because this is supposed to be a country that's supposed to be, you know, off the, you know, ships of war. It's supposed to be like absolutely disgraced. But it looks like an absolute paradise in Sicily right now. Because when Michael's there, he's very calm and happy. Obviously, his wife blows up, which isn't ideal. But, you know, it's very like, you know, that contrast between Sicily and America, it's almost like Michael could have actually stayed in Sicily if he wanted to. You know,
I think if he didn't want to get involved in the business, which by this point is too late.
It's too late,
Sicily
it was too late. Sicily would have been perfect for Michael, because he seemed like he was enjoying it and he liked it. And, you know, he left this woman he was chasing to get married, you know, and he goes out because he realizes he knows he's going to take over the family business. He knows how much his dad loves him. So he is like, right, I need to start maturing now. I need to marry a good woman, a good Sicilian wife. I'll take over to America, and then we can build this empire. So he plans. It doesn't happen like that, but you know, he starts to mature a lot.
You know what I think? I feel like he never truly loved Kay. Whereas with
100%.
with the Sicilian wife, I feel like it was more for him love at first sight, which kind of grew. And then when he goes back, you know, he's already in the family business. But I feel like he doesn't want to have all these distractions of maybe kind of trying to find another woman, so he goes back to Kay again. So I think, you know, it's more a case that you see the 2 women that are really important to him, but one he truly loves, and the other one he's kind of learned how to love. But you were saying as well how he had to mature to be the kind of leader of the family, I guess. I think Vito's always saying he never wanted Michael to be in the family, but I think he knew there was no other choice. Fredo was never going to be.
Oh, definitely not.
Sonny, I don't think Vito respected. You could see all the moments in the film where Sonny uses heart over head. Vito's very kind of pragmatic. He was like, you know, it's just business. It's just business. Very calm. Michael is very calm as well. You know,
Yeah.
he's like basically like a mirror reflection of Vito, but a
Yes.
younger version.
Yes, yes.
So I feel like even though he didn't want him to be in the business, there was no other option.
There was no other option. Michael was the best option because I mean, if Tommy was blood, he would have given it to Tommy. But Tommy's not blood; he couldn't give it to Tommy. You know, but Michael
he kept him close.
He kept him. He kept Tommy close though because he wanted him to be his. I'm not even going to pronounce the name they call him. Conchigli, whatever it's called. But I completely forgot what the name is called. But as in like his like right hand man basically. He was his right hand man. But you know. But it's that thing, it had to be Michael. It had to be Michael. And Michael was young as well, and he knew if he gave it to Michael, he could outlast even, he could reign longer than Vito.
Yeah. You know, I have a question for you. So obviously, Vito recovers, Michael comes back. But how did Vito know that it was Barzini? Because you don't really find out much about it. It's more just off his instinct than what he kind of picked up.
Yeah.
Is it just that he's very good at reading people, or do you think there were certain cues that are shown to us? Like, what do you think?
I think
because that's one bit which I thought, how did he like know that? But then I assume it's just that stuff that has probably been said during the meeting.
I think it's probably stuff that he said in the meeting. Vito's very experienced. I feel like he can read people very well. He knows if someone's lying, telling the truth, and stuff like that. I think it was a combination of things, you know, and I think maybe it was like stuff that his like internal like gang said as well, like Tessio, for example, you know. So I think it was probably that, you know. He probably picked it up from loads of different people. I
think it's just maybe I guess it's a 3-hour film, so you know, he's not going to show everything.
He's not going to show every single thing, and in fact, like I think Coppola wanted to make it a 4-hour film, but Paramount said no.
Fair enough. I mean, you know, because after that, that's when Vito starts to get unwell. Michael's already back at this point, so he's taking over. And then you hear the character, well, Vito passes away. They introduce someone called Mo Green because he wants to move the family. Michael wants to start moving operations to Nevada to start getting involved in gambling. So did you notice when Mo Green said, I talked to Barzini? It was like a weird...
Yeah, it's a very weird, like,
you know, they dubbed it.
Really?
So I don't know why. For some reason, something happened. So they dubbed it. And a lot of people were saying that, I think it was a bad audio, so it's done intentionally. But a lot of people were saying that it sounds like Darth Vader. So there were rumors that was it James Earl
Jones?
That he for some reason did this little clip and then just put it in the film. I don't think it's true, but when you listen back to it, you'll hear that it's dubbed and it sounds really weird.
Like James Earl Jones.
It sounds like Darth Vader.
But
you can just tell the audio is like a bit weird at that point. But anyway, so they introduce him and he's like this larger than life character who Fredo is very close with. And you kind of see the relationship between Fredo and Michael here, where it becomes more evident and more strained in part 2. Where Fredo is like, you don't talk to people like that. And then Michael, again, it's the same thing as you said, the power struggle. Fredo's standing, and then Michael's just casually sitting down. But it's like, you know, these people that stand and the people that... It's funny, the film makes people sitting more powerful than people standing. It's because they want to show that these people that stand and shout to get their way, they're weak, you know, they are not powerful. It's more like from their heart. It's not from their head.
It's from their heart, and they're so emotional, and they're so like, you know, like, listen to me, you know, like, I'm right. Whereas if you sit down and, you know, are calm and, you know, just say everything calmly, like, you will be respected and you will be heard, you know?
And that's the thing. I think the people who are standing just want to be heard, whereas people are sitting, they want that respect. And I think it works well for them.
Yeah, definitely.
Because this bit in the film is kind of like a segue into the final act. Where they find out about Carlo, what he's doing. And then he obviously, you know, you kind of find out about his demise at the end. You find out what Michael's planning for the family and all his competitors. And then you have that beautiful shot and the beautiful montage of the baptism happening. And in the baptism background, all of his capo regimes are going and killing all these people. And it's just basically like a massive power play to make sure that the Corleones stay in the right
is literally
position.
Michael is eliminating the competition. I love the fact that it's done during a baptism. Because it's one of the most holiest things that they can do in Christianity. And it's especially important that when he says, do you renounce Satan and this and that, you literally see Michael's eyes and he's like, yes.
It's that stare,
but then it cuts to a shot of them killing the people. And it's like, he's doing he's ordering the most unholiest things whilst doing such a holy thing. And it's like, he knows what he's doing, but he's just blindly lying in church and he's blindly lying in God. He's basically saying, it kind of makes Michael the devil himself. You know, he's basically become like so evil that he doesn't care about God or anything like that. He literally is like, I am God.
Yeah.
You know, I run everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in part 2,
Yeah.
on my notes, I'll talk about it more then.
Yeah.
But there's a link between like kind of religion and the kind of mobster mafia thing. So I'll talk about it then because it's actually really interesting.
Yeah.
Because there's certain shots they've used in that film which will lead more to
I feel
it.
like in part 2 they refer more to like the religious aspect between the mafia, because I know the mafia is very religious and they very much believe in God and stuff like that, and but we'll save that for part 2. Yeah.
I think my favorite shot of this whole film was basically at the end where the whole film comes full circle. So like it started off with people going to Vito and asking for this kind of stuff and showing him respect, and then it ends with Michael in his office, Clemenza kissing his hand, and then the door closes. It's like full, like the film opens up and then it closes. It was amazing.
Why I think it's the perfect beginning of the film and it's the perfect end of the film. It wraps the whole story so well. I think it's just so smart. It's such a smart, intelligent film, and they got it right, and it's incredible that this came out in the 70s. And it's still so good.
What would you say is your favorite moment in the film?
Oh, I've got so many. The entire film. The entire film. Let me just look through my notes, because there's a couple of here.
Go for it,
that I really like. So, overall favorite thing I like about the film, if you notice, in a lot of like mobster films about the mafia and stuff like that, they say mafia all the time. They don't say mafia whatsoever. Want to make it's because Coppola, obviously being from an Italian American family, he didn't want this film to be the stereotypical Italian film. He didn't want to play into the stereotypes of Italian people. So he didn't want to like overdo it with the hand movements and stuff like that. He didn't want to like say, hey, Vinny, how you doing? Like stuff like that. He wanted it to be as realistic as possible to how Italian Americans, how their culture is like in America. He wanted to celebrate Italian Americans, and this film does, because after this film, I feel like that community in America had a huge rise and a huge boom with so many more Italians coming to America, just like as they did in the 40s to escape Italy. They came here because they were like, you know what, my community has built up such a big community in America, and especially New York as well. I'm moving here. Now, if you go to New York, so many businesses are run by Italian Americans, but I love the fact that he didn't use the word mafia, because that word, it's
could have bad connotations in films.
It does have bad connotations because, the mafia aren't called mafia.
No.
Mafia is such a negative, derogatory term. It's like, calling a freedom fighter ISIS. That's what it's like, it's like that, because not all mafias, they're not all gangs. Some of them are literally actual families. But they may have used to do crime back in the day. They don't do that anymore.
Not the people who are there now.
Not now, but they just have a history of that term. So, it's kind of insulting when they call them that, because that's you're basically labeling them as a terrorist almost, So I love that about the film. The end scene, when the baptism scene is incredible. Amazing. That's so good. What I also like, so much in here. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to wrap it up as well and like not do so much. But the horse's head scene was just so. It's such an iconic scene as well, and it's so imitated by so many other films after that as well. What I love about that scene as well, it's not the fact that they reveal the horse's head. It's Jack's scream after that. I was just gonna say, it's when he's like, and every scream they zoom out, every scream, and then they show his heart as well. I'm like, that's such an effective way of doing the film, and even the reveal as well. They could have easily have been like, oh, we'll show the horse's head. The fact that the first thing you see is blood on his hand, and he's like thinking, okay, is this my blood? Is this someone else's blood? What is this from? And you keep looking, and then you see, and the horse's head. Not even
like when he's starting to kind of move the his duvet and stuff, it's not even that it's immediately done. It's like he keeps going and then he finds a horse's head. It's like, again, that prolonged kind of
it's such
discomfort.
An incredible thing,
so that was an interesting shot, kind of how they did it. What other kind of shots did you or had you noticed or kind of picked up on?
I've got quite a few here. Let's see.
Let's get technical.
Let's get technical in here. So Paulie, who was Paulie again? Is that the? Oh yeah. He's the person, the cannoli guy.
Yes, yeah.
So when Paulie gets killed, when Clemenza kills him, there's an interesting shot where it's a wide shot, right? It's fields, and you see the Statue of Liberty at the top.
Oh,
You see the Statue of Liberty at the top, which Statue of
I didn't
Liberty
notice that.
resembles freedom, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But then he shoots him, and he basically says it's kind of a commentary of like, are we actually free though?
Yeah,
is America free when all the stuff is happening? Yeah,
I noticed the shot, the wide, because you just see like someone's gun come up and shoot him.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't notice the Statue of Liberty.
Also, the first shot we see, so the shot with Bonacera, yeah. When they first do the shot, you see him talking about America, and you think he's gonna give this like very motivating speech, and you think that, okay, it's called The Godfather, maybe this guy's the Godfather, maybe this guy is very important. As it zooms out, he gets weaker and weaker and weaker as it goes in, because he says, my daughter was killed, and then when we finally zoom out and we see the back of Vito's head, he's sobbing, he's crying. So basically he shows, actually, this guy isn't who he is.
No.
He's talking about. I love the fact that is one of the best uses of a zoom, and it's one of the best opening shots of any film ever made as well, because it's such a random shot as well. It's just, you don't really see, in the opening shots of films, you don't really start with a close-up that much. You usually start with an establishing shot or like a title sequence or something like that. It's one of the few films where it starts with an opening shot and he just quickly goes, America. I found that really like captivating and really interesting. I also love that a lot of the action sequences, they're shot in like wide shots and, shot in like very like one-shot ways, like when Sonny's beating up thing. But I love the fact that like when Sonny's getting shot, they do lots of quick shots and like lots of parallel shots. So one side you got like a shot where it's like diagonal and they're shooting him. Then the other shot, it's on a different side, but it's still the same angle, And like I love the chaos of it all, And even when Sonny like gets out of the car and they shoot him as well, James Caan's acting in that scene so good. Like the way he actually is quite believable when he's like getting shot, because he's like really like shaking on the ground, and I love like they didn't have to do this in the film, but I love the fact when he gets shot, the guy kicks his face. I was like, he's dead, he's dead, but it's just like I just kick him in the face just in case, even though we pelted him with like 100 bullets. Just kick him in the face just to be sure that he is dead. But I like the fact that with this film, right? So most films when they shoot with lighting, they shoot with multiple lights coming around. So basics of lighting is 3-point lighting. So you have your main light, which is the key light. You then have the light which eliminates the shadows. Then you have your backlight. A lot of the shots in the films, they're just shot with one light. Which I found really interesting, because like it shows the shadows and everything like that, but it just shows that it's not shot in a traditional films. They use very minimal lighting, very like just using what's on the camera, and you don't really get as many films like that anymore. Where everything's shot with one lighting style. You have scenes like that, but you're not really like massive bits of films where it's like that, which I found really interesting. But then that is intentional, and it just I can't imagine a Godfather filmed with the traditional style of lighting where you can see lots of stuff, less shadows. I can't see that whatsoever.
So most of it was done with one light, you're saying?
Most of it's done with one light, you can tell when like in some of the scenes that
the darker scenes.
The darker scenes, it's all just shot with one light. They're just shooting with one light so they can get as much shadows as they can with of the person. And also I like the fact that like with the costume design, they intentionally make them all wear brim hats. It's because they want to make them look shady and cast shadows even more. That's why they use the brim hats. It's like that shadiness and giving that like evil type of like figure, that negative type of figure, but just trying to also emphasize the shadows, and you can't see whose faces are what because the brim, like the shadows covering their eyes. And I find that really, really interesting on what they do on there.
The type of way it was recorded. Like if you see here, you see how it's kind of got I know it's filmed in the 70s, but it's got kind of like an older style look to it.
So that's film grain. That's what that is.
So that's done after, is it? Or?
No, that's basically... The reason it's like that is because this is back in the days where they shot in actual physical film. This is shot in actual physical film, and it's edited in actual physical film as well. And, they had to like... it was so meticulous in their way of editing. They'll have their film reel, they'll do it there. I think this is when film was digitized though, so they would like have to like spool it into like a deck, and then they'll put it into a visual editor. I'm not 100% too sure on that, but it's shot like it's done like that because it's all the quality of the actual film.
Was as
it was coming around. This is when film was, slowly trying to develop their quality of actual film
Yeah,
and stuff
yeah.
like that. So it wasn't the best type of film
Yeah, of
quality.
course.
It's not the greatest, and it's got the grain because of the type of
The
film
type
that
of
they
film.
used as well, and also the way it's shot, because obviously different type of lighting effects, different type of film as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
It was so meticulous in their ways, but that style is coming back now, shooting on actual film, But
Okay.
now actual film is
Is
super
improved.
4K and it's
Yeah.
like proper improved,
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's just that nostalgia is coming back,
Yeah.
when shooting on film, because now actual film spools, they're getting in better quality now than actual digital like 4K and stuff, and
I think I
digital
heard
8K,
this. Yeah, yeah.
because they're making it. It's I don't know what it is. I don't know the technology because I'm not actually shot in actual film myself, but for some reason the new film being developed that just has a much better quality than
Yeah.
actual digital film. Yeah, it's
Interesting.
really interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what you're seeing there. It's just because it was the 70s and all those films back then. It's just the type of quality
Yeah,
of
yeah.
film.
I
they
mean, it
actually
worked
used.
with this film.
It
It
works
looks really
so
good.
well. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
in fairness, it's shot in it's set in the 40s, so it plays into like the actual 40s itself.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's
No,
what
I
I'll say
agree.
on that.
What else was there that anything else that you kind of picked up on?
Other things, I mean, the fact that they use like newspaper clippings for the montage,
Yeah.
because and the montage, like that is a good element of showing time passing rather than using annotations like 1945, 1947, stuff like that. I
Yeah.
thought that was really cool. But yeah, like just the way it's like, the way they use sound as well, the music. I think it's so right in each like moment and everything.
Yeah.
I think that was absolutely like keyed in really well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like the fact, this is more like a acting thing. I like the fact that like the guys, they do like, obviously they're playing Italians, they do have their like hand gestures and stuff.
Yeah.
Because no matter, like, they're not overdoing over the top.
Yeah.
But Italians are Italians, you see them,
Yeah.
they do a lot of
It was
hand
done
gestures.
tastefully. It wasn't too
It's
much.
tastefully, yeah. It's done in a very like respectful way of like,
Yeah.
like, hey, like this is like, kind of like how we act anyway.
Yeah, because you have to know where they came from.
Exactly,
as
yeah,
well,
you have to
isn't
know where they came
It's
from.
not that
and,
they've like left their roots.
they're not going to be monotone and be like, oh, we're just not going to do any hand movements because we're trying to, take away all the stereotypes. It's like, no, they do, Italians do hand movements. If you've been to Italy, when they talk, they're very passionate with their hands. They talk with their hands, So it's like, like that's
a lot of
literally it.
mannerisms.
I also find it interesting that, Vito, at the wedding, he wears a red flower.
Okay.
Whereas no one else does. And then at the end, when in the funeral, they put the red flower on his coffin.
Oh, yeah. I do remember the red
So
flower
it kind of like symbolizes.
I didn't notice he was wearing it, but
Yeah.
I noticed when they put it on.
But
his
when
coffin.
it kind of like signifies that, like, who he is. He is the Don.
Yeah.
Like you respect
He'll
him.
always be
so
the Don,
he'll always be
yeah.
the Don. So
Yeah.
that's what they kind of do for that. Any other bits? Yeah, Sonny's conflict was great with Tommy. I think that was like really well done. The outfits also were very specific to like 1940s.
Yeah.
I thought it was very like, this is like, you believe that you're actually in that era because of the
Takes you back.
vehicles, the hats, the clothing, even the houses as well, the architecture as well inside, like the diners as well. Like I thought it was absolutely incredible what they're doing. No, it was really like I like visually, it's absolutely amazing, and also practical effects.
Yeah.
The practical effects, the fact that like obviously this is before CGI was invented.
Yeah.
It's incredible seeing
really good,
what they used to do, because even like some of the bullet holes and stuff like that, they
Like
look
the Mo Green's eye, right?
Yeah. But like they look so realistic
Yeah.
as well. Like you believe that they've been shot, and
Yeah.
it's quite like controversially violent as well for that era, because like back then it was like you couldn't show that much violence in films, and I'm good on them for actually like playing the boundaries and stuff like that. You know? But yeah, like even like when Sonny's getting killed, like the glass is shattering everywhere, and also I love that bit where when Carlo's getting killed, and then when he like kicks the windscreen and you can see the windscreen getting pushed and stuff, it's like you're trying to escape but you can't. But I love the fact that it's all practical, it's not over the top, it's realistic, you know. Like I love when films do special effects with practical effects, because it's like that's kind of how it would be like, as long as they're done right and they're not shit, you know. That is kind of how
you want it to be as realistic as possible, isn't it?
Exactly.
You don't want it to be just kind of, obviously CGI has its place, but in stuff like this,
but this is why I love this era of films, because this is before CGI was invented, and you couldn't, there was no excuse, you had to do practical effects. And I like the fact, I know CGI has made stuff easier and stuff you can't do that much, but sometimes you just want to see some practical effects in films. You know, I want stuff to be practical. I want to see explosions. I want to see gunfire and
Yeah,
stuff like that. I
yeah,
want to see these like realistic
yeah.
things. You know, you know, that's really like,
That's what cinema is, isn't it?
yeah.
Mm.
Cinema is, you know, we're playing on reality. You know, yeah, it's cinematic, and you know,
Yeah.
where you want to be taken to a make believe world and stuff like that. But
Mm.
true cinema, it's like, you know, we're seeing what can be real. You know,
Yeah.
what fictional worlds we want to see it as what it would look like in real life.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
that's literally it. You know,
Mm.
I also found that you know, when Michael's wife is killed,
Yeah.
it's at the 2 hour point. It's exactly at 2 hours. So,
Okay.
and I found that when Michael's wife gets killed, that's the breaking point where he's like, "F everyone, I'm gonna be this ruthless
Yeah. Leader.
bastard." You know,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm gonna be the ruthless guy, ruthless leader. You know, I'm gonna do what I can. You know, because you know, like he basically like affirms to him, you can't trust anyone.
Yeah.
So rather than making deals with all these people that I don't know,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna have them all killed.
Yeah.
And he does.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
literally even has people on his own side
Yeah,
killed because
yeah.
he's like, I can't trust you.
Tessio, yeah.
You know, like you know, you're done for my life, and it's incredible just how ruthless he becomes.
Yeah, that's true.
And his empire is gonna be so much more different than Vito's,
Yeah.
because he ain't gonna, you know, he wants to
Yeah.
be feared. He does not want to be. He doesn't care if he's respected
Yeah.
or not.
He just wants that.
He wants people to fear him. You
Yeah,
know, and I
yeah.
really like that. What I find interesting is that it's kind of a commentary as well on Mussolini's ascension as well, because that's what
Okay.
Mussolini wanted as well,
To be feared.
to be feared, you know, because
Okay.
he was a fascist leader. He
Yeah.
wanted to be a dictator, and that's what
Yeah,
he was.
yeah, yeah.
That's what Michael starts to be, you know, must have become
Okay.
as well.
And you see more of that obviously in part
Yeah,
2.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
yeah.
Exactly.
Especially with his family, I feel.
Yeah, yeah.
This was more like with everyone else, but in part 2, it's a lot of it is kind of going on with his own family.
Yeah. I also found, you know, when Vito makes Michael the Godfather as well,
Yeah.
I found that you see Vito basically wear a suit majority of the film, and he is that
Yeah.
like proud figure.
Yeah.
Whereas when he gives that power to Michael, he becomes so relaxed. And
Yeah,
he's so
yeah. He's like a retired
He's
granddad.
retired. He's literally
Yeah,
becomes a
yeah.
retired granddad. But it's incredible seeing that power shift of he's a retired granddad in the slacks,
Yeah.
and Michael's wearing the suit,
Yeah.
and then it kind of then you physically see that power go
Yeah.
to Michael, because then you're not kind of intimidated by Vito anymore.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
kind of see him as like, oh, he's just a lovely old man.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas Michael, he becomes even more scared as well. But it's
Yeah.
incredible seeing how in the beginning of the film you kind of like, oh, what's Vito gonna do? It's kind of intimidating. And then at the end of the film, you're like, oh, look at this nice granddad.
Yeah,
He's like
yeah,
so
yeah.
chill. But it's like you kind of like are like, whoa, like it's crazy how that shift happens.
Been a power shift.
Yeah. It's absolutely amazing, you know. But yeah, no, that's like what I found with like all the
Yeah.
technical aspects of the film, you know. But yeah, like
I love hearing about like the actual camera shots and why
Yeah,
they do it, because
yeah.
we don't. I guess we can appreciate it on screen, but when
Yeah.
you find like why it's done in such a way, it helps
Yeah.
you appreciate it even more.
Yeah. And I think a lot of like for me, I felt like he just wanted to like shoot in a lot of one shots for quite a long time, because
Yeah.
you kind of want to see what happens, you know. You
Yeah,
don't want
yeah,
it to
of
be
course.
cut up too much. And I like the fact that he takes his time with the camera shots, you know.
Yeah.
It's like that thing of like you don't want to cut too quickly to this person,
Yeah.
cut too quickly to that person. It's like we want to linger on that moment. It's like when people are like dying and stuff like that.
Yeah,
They linger on it for a bit
Yeah.
longer
Like
than
a
normal
beat
films,
longer than normal.
because you know, you want to be like, wow, like
Yeah.
they just killed that guy, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was absolutely like really technical.
Yeah.
That's what I would say for those ones. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, should we start rounding it off?
Yeah,
In terms
sure.
of our kind of normal popcorn rating,
Mm.
storyline, acting, visuals, pacing. What did you give?
So storyline, it's 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I said 10
You know,
as well.
I know last episode I said nothing's gonna get 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
This is gonna get a 10 out of 10.
I gave it a 10 as
Come
well.
on, it's
It's
the
so
Godfather.
good.
It's so absolutely one of the best
It's
stories
so
ever.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. So did you give it a 10 out of 10 as well?
I gave it 10. I think I agreed. Same with you. I think
Yeah.
in terms of the kind of storyline, nothing could have made it better. I think it was perfectly done.
Yeah.
You know, as we kind of go on to now the acting bit, I think the actors, the way that they played their roles, you know, I gave it a 9.
I also gave it a 9 as well.
Yeah.
And I put in graphics, brackets, Collie's acting was shit.
That brings it down to a 9.
That's literally the only reason it brings that down to a 9. If
Yeah.
she was cast with a different actress,
Yeah.
and the acting was actually good, the acting would have gotten a 10 out of 10 as well.
Probably, yeah.
Genuinely.
Yeah. I don't think that she acted badly. I think that she played the character how it's supposed to be played. I just didn't like the character.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
that's
fair
what
enough.
that's what I think.
Yeah.
Visuals. So what did you give visuals?
I gave it a 10 out of 10.
Then yeah, I gave it a 9.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
I don't know why I gave it a 9. I think more because some of the sound I thought where they had to re-edit it and things like that, like I picked up on a few of those. So that's the only reason probably why I'll give it a 10.
But I would
I'll
say,
give it
I
a
think
9.
majority of films, there are stuff
There's
like
always gonna
that.
be
Yeah, there's always
that,
technical
yeah.
issues. So.
Yeah, and we had to fault it on something. So
Fair enough, yeah. I mean, I did as well with the acting.
yeah, true, fair enough. Pacing, I gave it a 9.
10.
10 again.
10 again. I think it's beautiful. I think it's perfectly paced. I think it needed that 3-hour long pacing.
Yeah.
I genuinely could have watched a 4-hour cut of this film. Because I wanted more. I was like, I want more. And when I finished the film, I was like, I want to see more of Michael. And I'm like, oh no, I'll get to see Godfather Part 2.
Exactly.
You know, and now I'm kind of glad, because at first I was dreading Godfather Part 2's run, because I know it's longer than Godfather. Now I'm excited for it. I'm like, I want to see more. I want to see more. You know, but yeah, no. You know what we haven't talked about, by the way? The Godfather Part 3.
Oh god. Oh god. I know a lot of people.
Are you looking forward to that?
I mean, I think I'm looking forward to it because I want to finish the trilogy and see what it's about.
Yeah.
But you know, I've never actually seen that film.
Have you not?
So it'll be interesting for me to see it.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people say Godfather 1 and 2, they're the two main ones. Obviously, 3 tails off quite a bit. But I want to see why it tails off. And I think that would be quite interesting to see.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
We'll see.
Good luck.
So your average was 9.75.
Yeah.
My average was 9.25. So in total,
yeah,
it's a 9.5, which I think
9.5.
Yeah, I think is fair.
I think it deserves it. And I even wrote like a little note for it. I think it's a timeless classic.
Yeah.
It's over 50 years old. Still holds up today as one of, if not, in my opinion, the greatest film ever made.
Yeah.
I highly think this deserves to be above Shawshank Redemption.
I think so.
I think this, in my opinion, deserves to be number 1 on IMDb's list.
Yeah.
It's insane that it's not.
I think in terms of, I think it's one of the greatest films. I don't think it's my favorite film because we'll talk about that in the next few.
And again, I say it's one of the greatest films ever made, and it should be number 1. That doesn't mean it's my favorite film.
Exactly.
You know, it doesn't mean it's my favorite film. I'm just saying, with IMDb's listing and ranking and stuff like that, it should be number 1. Shawshank does not deserve to be number 1.
Yeah. Well, I mean, our favorite films, we're gonna get onto that.
Yeah, we will.
In the next few weeks.
We will. Yeah.
What are we gonna be discussing next week?
So next week we're discussing one that I've been excited for a very long time. I've been very excited to talk to this film. Next week's film, we're gonna be talking about Christopher Nolan's masterpiece, The Dark Knight.
Yeah, I cannot wait.
I'm so excited for that one.
Literally, that's like one of the films that I can just keep watching over and over again.
Genuinely,
it's so good.
I can watch that film on repeat. So I am so excited for you guys to hear what we have to say about The Dark Knight.
Yeah. You know, I think we'll post everything on our socials, you know, Instagram, Twitter. We'll leave a couple of questions on the actual Spotify link. So let us know what you want to kind of listen out for later on. Join us next week for The Dark Knight, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, we'll see you then. And if you're about to have dinner right now, make sure you're having some good old tagliatelle.
Yeah.